Before we begin, I want to warn you that this story contains mature themes. It deals with the challenges of new motherhood, family relationships, and infidelity. If these topics make you uncomfortable, you might want to stop watching now. When I first moved to the city, it wasn't a big dramatic thing. I got a job offer, nothing crazy, just something steady, and it happened to be about 2.5 hours from where I grew up. Coincidentally, that's where my sister Paulina lived. She's 27, has her own apartment, and was cool enough to let me crash at her place until I figured out my own situation. Paulina and I have always been close. She's my big sister, you know? The kind who teases you nonstop growing up, but would also be the first to have your back if anyone else tried. When we were kids, she used to steal the remote, but she'd also help me sneak snacks past mom. Classic sibling stuff. Her apartment's a one-bedroom, so I started out on the couch. Now, don't get me wrong, the couch looked comfy. But I've got scoliosis, and after a couple of nights, my back felt like it had been hit by a truck. Paulina noticed me wincing one morning and offered to let me take the bed. I wasn't about to kick her out of her own room, though. That felt weird. So, we came up with a solution that made sense at the time: we'd just share the bed. It's a queen, plenty of space for both of us to have our own sides. No big deal. It wasn't anything weird. Just two siblings trying to make life work in an expensive city. Living with Paulina kind of felt like being kids again. We'd stay up late watching dumb shows, argue over who left dishes in the sink, and sometimes just sit around talking about life. She'd always been the responsible one growing up, the one who seemed to have everything together. And me? Well, I was just trying to keep up. If you're still with me, don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories like this. Trust me. There's so much more to uncover. So, sharing the bed? It was fine at first. I stayed on my side, she stayed on hers. No big deal. Honestly, it helped my back a ton, and after a few nights, it just became normal. Like, we'd both crash after a long day, and it wasn't weird. At least, I thought it wasn't. But after a while, little things started to feel different. Not in a huge, dramatic way. Just small stuff. Like, you know how you get used to someone's routines when you live with them? I'd wake up before her sometimes and notice how peaceful she looked sleeping. Or we'd both reach for the remote at the same time and laugh when our hands bumped. Dumb stuff like that. But for some reason, I started noticing it more. It's like, the more comfortable we got living together, the more. I don't know. Blurry things felt. I didn't think too hard about it, though. Life kept me busy. Work was exhausting, and Paulina had her own schedule. But then came my birthday. Turning 20 didn't feel like a big milestone or anything, but Paulina wanted to celebrate. She said we had to go out, no excuses. So, we hit up this club she liked, not exactly my scene, but hey, free drinks, right? We were laughing, dancing, just having a good time. She kept introducing me to her friends like, "This is my baby brother," which was super embarrassing, but I didn't care. It felt good to let loose for once. We both drank way more than we should have. I mean, I'm not a lightweight or anything, but that night? Yeah, I was feeling it. By the time the club closed, we were stumbling out onto the street, laughing at nothing. The walk back to her apartment felt like it took forever, and we were both just in that stupid, happy, drunk mood. When we finally got home, we barely made it to the bedroom. I kicked off my shoes, flopped onto the bed, and she collapsed right next to me, still laughing about something I can't even remember now. The room spun a little, but it felt good. Comfortable. Familiar. We didn't say much after that. Just crawled under the covers, both of us still wearing our clothes from the night. It should have been just another night. But something about it felt different. Like the air was heavier or something. I lay there for a while, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing slow down as she drifted off. And I don't know why, but for the first time I felt weird. Like, the bed suddenly felt smaller. The space between us felt smaller. I wasn't sure what to make of it. I told myself it was just the alcohol messing with my head. But part of me wondered if it was something else. I don't know what it was about that night. Maybe it was the alcohol, maybe just being in that space, feeling a little too comfortable. But as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind wouldn't shut off. The room was quiet except for Paulina's soft breathing beside me. It was the kind of silence that's supposed to feel peaceful, but instead, it felt heavy. I rolled onto my side, trying to ease the stiffness in my back. The shift brought me closer to her. We weren't touching, but I could feel her warmth, just enough to make my heart race a little. I told myself it was nothing. Just the drinks, the late hour, the buzz from the night still hanging over me. But then, I don't even know why, I let my arm drift across the bed. It wasn't anything big. Just a small movement. I felt my hand brush against her waist. She didn't move. Didn't say anything. And for a second, I convinced myself it was fine. Just an accident. No big deal. But I didn't pull my hand back. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I wasn't thinking at all. The lines between what was normal, what was okay, it all felt blurry in that moment. My hand stayed there, and before I realized it, I started to move it, just slightly, up toward her ribs. That's when she stirred. She turned around slowly to face me, her eyes half open, still groggy from sleep. "What are you doing?" she whispered. Her voice wasn't angry. Just confused. And that's when it hit me, this sudden, sharp awareness of what I was doing. My mind went blank. I didn't know what to say. My heart was pounding in my chest, and before I could even think it through, I did the first thing that popped into my head. I kissed her. It wasn't long or dramatic. It was quick, awkward. But the craziest part? She kissed me back. Just for a second, but it happened. It was like time froze. I don't know how long it lasted, probably just a few seconds, but it felt like forever. Then she pulled back, her face close to mine, and whispered, "Happy birthday, Axel. Go to sleep. We'll talk about this tomorrow." She turned away, pulling the blanket up over her shoulder like nothing had happened. But for me, everything felt different. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my heart still racing, my mind spinning. What had just happened? I couldn't make sense of it. Part of me wanted to believe it didn't mean anything. That we were both just drunk, caught in some weird, late-night moment. But another part of me, the part that stayed awake long after she fell asleep, knew it wasn't that simple. The morning after felt like waking up in someone else's life. The sunlight creeping through the blinds felt too bright, too sharp. I could hear Paulina moving around in the kitchen, like it was just another day. But for me, everything felt different. I stayed in bed longer than usual, staring at the ceiling, hoping the knot in my stomach would loosen. It didn't. When I finally got up, the words were already sitting heavy on my tongue. "I'm sorry about last night," I said, my voice lower than I expected. "It was a mistake." I didn't know what reaction I was expecting, maybe anger, maybe awkward silence, but what I got was neither. She just looked at me for a long moment, her face unreadable. No anger, no embarrassment. Just calm. Like it wasn't as big of a deal to her as it was in my head. That threw me off more than anything. The rest of the day felt surreal. Paulina acted like nothing had happened. She joked about some show we'd been binge-watching, complained about work like it was any other morning. But I couldn't shake the feeling that everything had shifted. The normal, easy rhythm we'd fallen into since I moved in felt off. Like we were both pretending nothing had changed when everything had. I kept replaying it in my head, trying to make sense of it. Was it just a weird, one-time thing? Was it the alcohol? But if it was, why wasn't she acting like it mattered? And why couldn't I stop thinking about it? Over the next few days, I found myself pulling away without even realizing it. I'd stay out later after work, pretend to be tired when I got home, anything to avoid being alone in the apartment with her. But no matter how much I tried to create distance, the tension didn't go away. It was like this invisible weight hanging in the air whenever we were in the same room. The guilt was the worst part. Not just guilt about what happened, but guilt about what it said about me. I'd always thought of myself as someone who knew where the lines were, someone who didn't cross them. But now? I wasn't sure who I was anymore. I kept asking myself, how do you go back to normal after something like that? Can you even go back? Paulina, though, she seemed fine. Like, really fine. She'd laugh, make dinner, suggest watching movies like we always did. But under all of that, I could feel something had shifted. It was in the way her eyes lingered a little too long when we talked, or how she'd casually touch my arm when walking past me in the kitchen. Small things. But I noticed them. And they messed with my head. I thought about moving out more than once. Just packing my stuff and finding some tiny studio apartment, even if it meant living on ramen noodles for the next year. But it wasn't that simple. Rent in this city was brutal, and I wasn't exactly rolling in cash. Plus, a part of me wondered if leaving would even fix anything. The problem wasn't just being in the same space. It was in my head, and no amount of distance could change that. I felt like I was stuck in this weird limbo, caught between pretending everything was fine and knowing deep down it wasn't. Every time I looked at Paulina, I saw both my sister and something else. And that scared me more than anything. The hardest part? I didn't know if she felt the same way. Or if I was the only one drowning in all this confusion while she floated above it like nothing had happened. That thought alone kept me up at night more than anything else. Weeks went by, but the weight of that night didn't lift. It wasn't like we had some big, dramatic fallout. There was no yelling, no fights. But something unspoken settled between us, thick and heavy, like a fog we couldn't see through. Paulina carried on like everything was normal. She'd ask about my day, joke about stupid stuff, like we always did. But under all of that, I could feel it, the space growing between us. Not the physical kind, but the kind you can't measure. The kind that creeps in when you both know something's wrong, but don't have the words to say it. I started avoiding her more. Staying out later, finding excuses to not be in the apartment. But no matter where I went, it followed me. That gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach. The questions I couldn't shake. What did it mean? For us? For me? I kept asking myself how one night, one mistake, could blur everything I thought I knew about who we were. We were siblings. That was supposed to mean something solid, unchangeable. But now, every memory, every inside joke, every late-night conversation felt like it had a shadow hanging over it. The hardest part wasn't even the guilt. It was the confusion. I didn't know how to look at her anymore. I didn't know how to look at myself. I thought about confronting her. Sitting down and hashing it out, getting everything out in the open. But every time I tried to imagine that conversation, the words wouldn't come. What was I even supposed to say? Hey, remember that night? What was that? I didn't know if I wanted an answer. I didn't even know if she had one. So, we just didn't talk about it. Days turned into weeks, and the silence between us grew louder. We both pretended like we'd moved on, but deep down, I knew we hadn't. I don't think either of us knew how. And that's the thing, sometimes, it's not about what you do after something like that happens. Sometimes, it's about what you don't do. The words you don't say. The feelings you don't admit. The distance you let grow because facing it feels too heavy. I don't know where we go from here. I don't know if things will ever feel normal again. Maybe we'll keep pretending until it doesn't hurt anymore. Maybe one day, we'll have the guts to talk about it. Or maybe we'll just drift apart, both too scared to face what that night really meant. All I know is, once a line is crossed, it's not just about whether you can go back. It's about whether you should. Either way, I want to hear what you think. Tell me, what would you do if your world fell apart like mine did? How would you move forward? Let me know in the comments. And if this story made you feel something, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.